Again, I can't prove it. All right. The Raiders wanted multiple quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, whoever else they had on their board. If they had Hendon Hooker on their board or whatever, if they had Will Levis on their board, they wanted to get him later in the rounds or whenever, whatever. All of those players were possibly gone before the Raiders got to their need of quarterback. And then a lot of people had Jake Haener as a prospect because he played at the Senior Bowl. A lot of people had him, and probably Aiden O'Connell played there as well. I got to look that up. But Jake Haener was a possible prospect for the Raiders if they didn't get a quarterback early in the early rounds. Then, in a conspiracy manner, I always say that Josh McDaniels is a sarcastic Prick, and he's one of these guys like Steven Crowder that puts little jabs and treats players and people like crap and exposes them and does little sarcastic jokes. Well, he's a narcissist, an egocentric, whatever. That's how I feel about Josh McDaniels. And I made the theory a couple videos back. What would you think happens if the Raiders drafted Jake Haener out of Fresno State? Everybody would compare Jake Haener as the better or worse quarterback than Derek Carr for the Saints. Everybody would compare them if the Raiders drafted Jake Haener. But according to a lot of experts and Raider fans, he was on their board to be drafted. And I see in a sarcastic way Josh McDaniels honestly wanting Jake Haener. Again, if he didn't get the quarterbacks that he wanted before, if they fell at that point, I could see in a sarcastic manner Josh McDaniels wanting to draft Jake Haener to kind of shove it in Derek Carr's face because they didn't get along. Even though they say they're good, everything's fine. It's public lies. I could see them wanting and picking Jake Haener. So, again, the Raiders moved up from 109 to whatever it was, 104, to pick up that player, the cornerback that they got. Then they had another pick at 135. Or it might have been 144. I'm sorry, I think it was 144. I believe they had another pick at 144. So, by all accounts, after they got the cornerback Bennett, they knew that Jake Haener's on the board and they needed a quarterback. But here's what happened. Before the Raiders were on the board to pick their quarterback, the Saints swooped in. I don't know if they traded up. I think I heard that they did. But the Saints swooped in and took Jake Haener to reunite him with Derek Carr, who they know each other, to make Derek Carr happy. And to take Haener away from the possibility of Josh McDaniels taking Jake Haener and then him being compared to Derek Carr by all Raider fans, and Derek Carr getting more hatred if Jake Haener ends up being a better quarterback and or becomes the starter for the Raiders. I guarantee you Derek Carr convinced Dennis Allen of the Saints, let's pick this guy. I don't want no controversy. The Raiders will ruin his career. He's a friend of mine. Josh McDaniels will ruin his career. I don't know. But I guarantee you Derek Carr said something to Dennis Allen, and Dennis Allen showed trust, showed belief, showed love, showed respect for Derek Carr, and got Jake Haener and snatched him away from the Raiders. Again, it's a theory. I can't prove it, but I think that's what happened. Now, Josh McDaniels is effing pissed because, let's be honest, Derek Carr knew that Josh McDaniels would probably take Jake Haener, and Derek Carr got in there like a hawk and messed it up in spite of Josh McDaniels. And to save Jake Haener from Josh McDaniels. I think that's what happened. So now Josh McDaniels is pissed. He lost his guy. So they moved up from 144. They traded with New England. They had to get the next person on their board that they like. Aiden O'Connell. That's my theory. And I believe it to be 90% true. Josh McDaniels was going to take Jake Haener. He was going to. Because if they moved up to get Aiden O'Connell, that proved that they had a need in the 4th round at quarterback. And they might have even moved up to like 130 or 135 like they did, and they thought Jake Haener would be there. If the Saints did trade up, I got to go get that information. That'll just prove my theory even more correct. But that being said, it was an interesting tidbit that I missed, and I wish I was live to give you my report on it, but it's an interesting theory. And I saw an interview with Jake Haener talking about, him and Derek Carr's relationship, and he's like an older brother. He's got his phone number, and, he always used to wear Saints beanies, and he was a Drew Brees fan and stuff like that. He's saying and doing all the right things. Will he replace Derek Carr? People are like, why are you talking about Derek Carr? Relax. I'm a Derek Carr fan. I'm rooting on Derek Carr when he doesn't play the Raiders. I'm rooting him on. Can you guys deal with it? Can you get over it? I hope so. But I don't think Jake Haener is as excited. Of course he is. He's excited to be in the NFL. But I don't think he's excited as much as he should be, because he's got to play under his friend who might play there for 5-6 years at least and be, the best quarterback for the Saints, barring any injury. Then he's also got to compete with, not only he's got to compete with Derek Carr, he's got to compete with Jameis Winston. I don't know if he'll be number 2, or he might be relegated in his first season or 2 to be number 3. And when players go into the NFL, they have their dreams of becoming a starter within the first 2 or 3 years, at least. And they would like to go to a team where they would be the starter from day one, I don't think that's the case for Jake Haener. But if he went to the Raiders, there's a good possibility that he could have been the starter, maybe not day one, but after year 1. Or after an injury with, and I'm not rooting for one, of Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jake Haener came to the Raiders, he had a quicker path, in theory, to become a starting quarterback. But by him going to the Saints, it probably is a better organization at the moment. It's probably a better situation for him mentally, physically, verbally, whatever. But there's no guarantee, and there's not a quicker path that I can see of him becoming the starter. So while I was watching the interview, while he was talking about his love for Derek Carr and he can't wait to be a Saint, I have to have the feeling in the back of my mind that he's like, dang. I love going to the Saints and I'm proud to be in the NFL, but I wanted a quicker path to becoming a starter and making, millions and millions of dollars. So he might be a little like, dang. That's just my theory, and I'm sticking to it.